The Last Roundup
Horror Show. You are listening to the Last Roundup Horror Show's recommended special. This episode will highlight all of the films that received an overall rating of 24 or higher and were awarded the LRHS recommended stamp of approval. Let's start things out with the holiday classic, Black Christmas.
During their Christmas break, a group of sorority girls are stalked by a stranger. This was directed by Bob Clark. Do you know what he did, Jason? You got any notes?
I don't have no notes on this, but
he did Porky's 2, Christmas Story, and Rhinestone. Anybody seen Rhinestone?
cut me off.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, have you ever seen Rhinestone?
No.
It's Sylvester Stallone and Dolly Parton. That's like a musical.
Sylvester Stallone musical sounds great.
Yeah. The screenplay plays by Roy Moore, who evidently had nothing on his IMDb because I didn't write it down.
Had Lois Lane in it.
Lois Lane from like the Superman movies.
Margot Kidder.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And John Saxon.
Love John Saxon.
Yeah.
Had you guys watched this one before?
Yeah.
I think so. I'm not sure.
I don't know that it's the first, but this one's always held as one of the first of the slasher trope kind of setup.
One of the things I liked about this, because it
was 4 years before Halloween. 4 was Halloween 78. This one's 74. A couple years before Halloween.
The thing I liked about it was that it was set at Christmas, but the killer was not infatuated with Christmas. He was just fucked up, like really fucked up, dude. I love the first-person perspective shots that they did through a lot of it when it was the killer. It's like it was. I wonder how they did it though, because it's way before GoPro technology, but it looks just like the first GoPro video you would ever see.
Yeah, I still like this one. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I like watching it too because there's a lot of the slasher, the killer perspective. It's a lot of everything from slasher, but since slashers didn't have a formula yet, it doesn't just do that.
You can definitely see like Friday the 13th was probably influenced by the way this was shot.
Well, and I think John Carpenter even said he was influenced by it for Halloween.
Oh yeah. They call this guy when this guy like calls them all the time, and they call him Minor League. But the fucking phone calls that this guy's putting together are
crazy,
like masterpieces of producing. They had to produce this shit, man. There's like a baby crying in the background. He's talking to himself. It's like
and in the 70s.
Yeah,
that ain't just fucking cut and paste shit.
He doesn't have a computer.
Yeah.
Hello? Hello? Who is this?
Please stop. Oh, God.
What do you want? Why are you doing this?
Let me, Billy. I know you're doing this, Billy. You answer me.
Who are you? For God's sake, what are you doing?
I know what you did, Billy. Filthy Billy. Billy! Billy! Billy!
Stop this!
Those ladies should be not only terrified, but highly fucking impressed, because Even if they think it's just a prank call, man, that's genius work. That's
Now I'm quite scared. But the quality you've done putting this together, fantastic.
for sure.
He might, if he got the appreciation, might not even wanted to kill people.
Yeah,
We know because we didn't find out who it is. We don't know his motive. Maybe he was just mad.
You guys.
Sorority house.
So get to the point.
There's a sorority house.
Yeah.
This minor league. Would you call him like he's not always being sexual? There's some sexual noises going on, but
He says like, "What you put the baby? You put the baby."
he's tormenting these girls. And then that's where it kind of takes off. What is the motive?
You don't find out because you never find out who he is.
Yeah, that's the cool part about it.
I don't really need one, to be honest. When he kills the girl and puts the plastic over her head, like that shot right there, that's as good as anything in horror there is. That shot right there. I mean, just you could give him credit for knowing ahead of time what that shot was going to be, but now looking on it now, that's beautiful. This movie is beautiful. Yeah. It starts right from the get go. Silent Night.
Yeah.
For the when the movie started, they're playing Silent Night. I love everything about it. I love the music.
Yeah, I think it holds up really well.
Yeah. And that also was cool for me was this was my first time viewing the Scream Factory release, and it's 2K restoration. It's beautiful. So that was really cool too.
I think that if you could smell this movie, it would smell like cedarwood, Virginia Slims, and like whiskey, because that's like they just are drinking constantly.
I like
the atmosphere.
Yeah, it was moody
I
as shit.
really love like the college slashers.
Yeah,
I love that.
And doing a serious horror movie and keeping comedy in it, I always thought this one is a good example of how it's done perfectly. There's funny stuff in it.
Right.
But it's not laugh out loud funny. It's just at the right moments. It's just like when she's when the one girl with the bag over her head, when her dad comes, he's trying to find her, and he's talking to whoever the lady that watches him is, and like she's doing the hand over the people making the peace sign while having sex, kind of just the small stuff. And her, I mean, she's obviously the comic relief. She's goofy, she's funny, but it doesn't take you out of
all the acting. I thought was great too.
Yeah.
Great acting, great music, atmosphere, had everything for me.
The kill scene with the glass unicorn, and it was panning back and forth between the kids singing Christmas carols, and like just the shots in that segment were fucking artwork. Like it was beautiful. Probably the
well
best,
shot. A lot of
best scene in the movie.
Like I swear it has some like the ass shot on Texas Chainsaw. Where she's walking up to the house. Like that's an iconic shot. And I think this movie's loaded with 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, I give this an 8 out of 10. There was it was a little bit long at places, like the turtle sex scene was pointless. And then when the guy was bashing the piano, I was like, this is pointless exposition that doesn't need to be.
He had to make his point. He was frustrated.
He's mad, man.
But that turtle sex scene could have been completely eliminated.
What do you got against turtle sex?
Well, it was just, it was
Have you ever heard that noise? You seen that video? that noise that turtle's making? You guys seen it?
I don't know.
Go on YouTube.
Miller's like, let me tell you about fucking
The
turtle
noise.
sex.
Oh my god, I can't believe you haven't seen it.
Okay, well, here, I'll put it right here.
Yes. Anyway, I give this an 8 too.
I give it a 9.
Whoa.
Look how close we are on that one.
Wow.
Yeah, I give it a 9.
It's the holidays. It feels good, don't it? It's Christmas spirit.
I always give this one an extra little bit of credit because it's probably just something that comes with being one of the first kind of that slasher. But when you go back and rewatch a lot of the slashers, as much as I still love the old Halloweens, Friday the 13th, any of them, by the time those were really coming out, they had fallen into very cut and paste formulaic. This is how you do it. That one I think holds up a little better because it was before there was a cut and paste. So it's got everything that you want in a slasher movie, but it never did it in the way that everything else fell into. It has a different feel. So it's still one of my top slasher movies.
Yeah, I want to go ahead and spoil it because the ending, whenever the guy's still in the fucking house and they just leave the girl unconscious on her bed, is fucking awesome. The phone just keeps ringing after he's done fucking killed her in there. And it just starts ringing, and it's just the static shot of the house with the guy standing outside. It's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, I was surprised we picked this one because
it was just
it's well known, but I guess it's the
Shudder.
holidays episode, and
Yeah.
how many
There's definitely a lot of good Christmas ones out there. We could have done more, but
Yeah, I saw some on Netflix.
I wasn't gonna.
this was easy.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna complain because you guys, Frank said we're gonna watch it, and I was like, yeah, I want to watch that.
Yeah.
It's Christmas.
I hope you enjoyed that gruesome offering, because we feel it truly is one of the great slashers of our time. The next film we would like to revisit is another classic bloodbath, 1982's Pieces. It taught us that you don't have to go to Texas for a chainsaw massacre. With an overall score of 24, we couldn't recommend this charmingly dubbed Spanish kill frenzy anymore.
We're going to talk about Pieces from 1982. The summary: young co-eds are being dismembered by a mysterious murderer on college campus. The killer is attempting to put together a human jigsaw puzzle made from body parts. Written by Dick Randall and Roberto Loyola. Man, these names. Directed by Juan Piquer Simon.
Sure.
Yeah. Jason forgot his notes, so he doesn't have...
The tagline
He
is,
can't back me up on these things.
it's exactly what you think it is.
I think it was, you don't have to go to Texas for a chainsaw massacre.
That's another one. Or is that another movie?
I
Is
think
that this
I
movie?
think this was this
All
one.
right.
I think I seen something.
It sounds familiar.
The one on the box says it's exactly what you think it is.
It is, too.
It is what you think it is.
Yeah.
Has one of the most memorable opening sequences. That's the only thing I really remembered from this movie was that. Little boy.
That mom's not nice.
No, but he does hacker. Those I love the special effects in this beginning part. There's some questionable things, but I love it. I love how it seems, everything about it. The Italian,
Spanish.
Is that what it is?
Spanish.
I thought it was shot in Madrid or something like that. I don't know.
Do they speak Spanish?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Jared, chime in on this.
It's
Do
in
they-
Spain,
it's a,
right?
It's a Spanish movie.
Madrid is in
Madrid?
Spain.
Madrid
right?
is in Spain.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
I guess it's not Italian. I was comparing it to.
Yeah, lots of people say Italian, but it's not. And since we're on that, I did get the Grindhouse releasing on the Blu-ray, and that's one of the special features is the original Spanish audio. And in my head, I was thinking that once I was listening to the Spanish audio and watching the video, that it would be synced up. It's not, because they still go back and dub everything. They don't. I don't know. That seems to be a trend with foreign movies. They like to go back and dub it. Like, I don't know if they don't know how to work a boom mic or what, but they go back and do everything.
Yeah,
again.
I figured it seemed like some of them could speak the lines, but they just weren't saying them clearly, and they were sharpening that up.
You watched it in English.
In English,
audio,
yeah,
right?
but some of them just seemed like if you were hearing what they were saying, maybe they were trying to say the English words, but they just weren't linking up at all.
You talking about syncing up?
Syncing up, yeah.
And also the things that they say in English is there's a lot of things like completely different. Like when they're talking about, it's been a while since I've watched it with the English audio, but like when they're talking about the water bed in the gym and where the pectoral muscles are, like those lines right there, those are like completely different when it,
Right. Yeah. That's one of the lines that I mentioned here. The one girl says the most beautiful thing in the world is smoking pot and having sex on a waterbed at the same time.
She's not far off.
But I don't know. Waterbed sex seems like it's you don't have any footing.
It's nice when you're on the bottom.
That's the only way they would work because
Because the sides pop up around you,
okay,
so it's
there you
even
go.
better for them.
There you go.
But let's stay on.
Yeah. Well, that's one of my points was I was like, these teens in this movie are delusional as fuck because they mentioned that, and then one of the girls wants to have sex underwater, and that's just horrible. I don't know. But besides the point, the soundtrack reminds me a lot of the Dawn of the Dead soundtrack, the way that it's like back and forth between like some droning bass type of stuff and then like some upbeat kind of like I'm shopping at the mall.
What'd you think of that? Because I liked it.
I liked
the
a lot.
soundtrack to this a lot.
I liked it a lot.
That again with the Grindhouse releasing, you get the soundtrack on CD.
Yeah, I was trying to. I looked it up. It was. I don't know if I wrote down who they labeled themselves as, but it was a group of people that combined put this album together.
This is the longest I've ever heard anyone talk about this movie without bringing up the ninja.
Hey, Miss Riggs.
Kendall?
What happened here?
Well, he jumped me. There he is.
Oh, hey, it's my kung fu professor. What's the story, Chow?
Oh, I am out jogging, and next thing I know, I am on ground. Something I eat. Bad chop suey. So long.
Take it easy.
Yeah, that is weird, but the reason that you know why that happened, the dude that directed it was working on kung fu movies, and he just kind of inserted that dude in because he was like, I think his name's Bruce Lee, L-E, not L-E-E.
Bruce Lee?
No, it wasn't Bruce Lee. He was the guy that stood in for Bruce Lee.
Gotcha.
So that's how he got in there. And
Yeah, this is just the first time that within like the first minute it's like,
well,
and what's with the ninja?
But the things that I noticed. Did you notice Bluto from the Popeye movie was the groundskeeper?
No, I did. There were people. There were people that looked familiar.
Yeah, I was like, I was like, who the fuck is that? And then I was like, wait a minute, that's fucking Bluto.
Some people from Slugs in it.
The main, I don't know about that.
It's been a long
the
time
main,
since I watched Slugs.
I think the main detective guy. I think he's in a couple Argento movies. Do you want to mention the bugs now before people think we're nuts?
For anybody that's watching the video, you're gonna think we're having like little crackhead moments or something, but bugs are literally flying in our noses and shit. So.
And it's hot here.
Yeah, it's
a
hot.
freaking sauna. We got bugs going. This is a different environment.
It's gonna be a weird show. Let's see. The killer ended up being, spoiler alert, the dean of the school. And the thing that I laughed at so many things in this, like he hides from the cops behind a curtain at one point. I was thinking, how the fuck did he become the dean of a school if he's spending all his time killing people for a weird puzzle project?
The cops are very bright. First of all, why do you have to get you got a college student to be like one of the lead investigators? Yeah. Then you bring in a tennis pro to go undercover at the school. Like what police? what are they doing over there in Spain?
Yeah.
All of this is why the movie is so good.
Yeah.
The movie's great. I thought all the way up till the end, and I just have a question for you guys. Why do you suppose they had that jigsaw puzzle corpse come to life and tear the dude's dick and balls off?
Yeah, I have no.
That's like too much hot fudge on your hot fudge
Well,
sundae.
that goes into like a taking a supernatural turn. The last 2 seconds of the movie.
I think they did it because it was right.
I mean, it was a good scene.
It's like I would, if I wrote that movie like that, if I ended up with a movie all the way up to the end, and I was like, what's the right way to end this?
Blow it out the ass.
It's like
just blow it out the ass.
That's the right way to end it.
The corpse coming out of the hidden door or whatever. It don't matter how many times I watch that like always takes me back for a second.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, now I remember that.
Yeah, I thought it was a really solid movie all the way up until that questionable end. I mean, it wasn't as bad as a big.
You can't question that.
It wasn't as bad.
You can't question that.
Oh, it
part.
wasn't. It wasn't. It might as well have been an after credits.
I thought it fit better than the ninja.
Right. Yeah, the ninja was. Yeah. And I'm not going to give it the dark song treatment because I liked it too much to do that. I'm not going to drop it all the way down for that weird shit.
But yeah, I in my opinion, all this weird all the ridiculous stuff. It's why the movie works. Like if you would have made this same movie, but you really tightened up the script and
had people, if you had actors that were saying the lines, I think that
I think
personally
would
the dub is a good. I love it. It's a good quality for a movie. It sounds weird, but it reminds me of like Fulci and shit like that. Like they always had the dubs.
Yeah, it's like sometimes when you hear a band where the recording is terrible, but it really works with what they're doing.
Yeah,
it adds to the ambiance. It's the correct mismatched dubs is the correct aesthetic.
Yeah,
for
that's
this
what
movie.
we're looking for here. I gave this an 8 out of 10, gentlemen.
Right on to you.
No, you go, Jared.
Oh, yes, I agree with Franklin. As far as trash slasher, just ridiculous bad movies.
And the endless supply of yellow chainsaws.
Yeah, just and didn't one guy that wasn't the killer just attack the cop for no reason, like he was the killer? didn't that happen?
Yeah.
So
they call the guy over. Do you think this chainsaw was used on this victim?
Well, yes,
it's sawed up.
It's right here.
I do.
But yeah, I mean, it's a really badly made movie, but for like when you're talking trash,
it's good.
And
I think it gets better every time you watch it too.
Yeah, just garbage exploitation for the fun of it, ridiculousness. This is one of the top ones. This is one I remember from when I was a kid too, and yeah, I give it an 8.
I'm right there with you guys. I scored it an 8 as well.
You know what that means, guys.
You got some bells and whistles going on. Yeah, no. Lots of blood, good amount of gore. It's good. It's a cheese fest. Another slasher you don't want to take too serious. If you're taking this movie serious, you're not gonna like it at all. I recommend buying it. The Grindhouse releasing. Well, it's kind of expensive now, but if you like this movie, that's a great release. I would recommend picking that up. But yeah, give it an 8.
Yeah, and if you're interested in soundtracks and vinyl and all that shit, I saw a pretty cool release of this soundtrack on vinyl. Definitely worth looking into that. I'm sure.
Did not see this one becoming certified.
Yeah,
I was.
I kind of did.
That's great. I mean,
kind of did.
Yeah, this is it's got a pretty big following.
Yeah, I didn't expect you enjoying all the cheese because
I bought it. I mean, I paid up for this Blu-ray.
I didn't know. I thought this was Frank's pick.
Yeah, I didn't catch this one right when it came out because like the first so many. Maybe if you had it pre-ordered, it came with a puzzle of that chick. I didn't get that one, but still, it's a great release. I paid up for it.
There you go, certifiable.
Watch it.
Coming up next on this very special episode of the Last Roundup Horror Show is the film we first gave the honor of LRHS Recommended, 1983's Videodrome. In this review, Frank questions the sexiness of Debbie Harry, and the term stomach pussy is coined.
We're starting with Videodrome, 1983, written and directed by David Cronenberg. Here's the summary. When he acquires a different kind of show for his station, a sleazy cable TV programmer begins to see his life and the future of media spin out of control in a terrifying new reality. Any additional information, Jason?
I don't know. The only tagline I seen from this was stupid. It says, from David Cronenberg, creator of Scanners.
It wasn't Long Live the New Flesh? I thought that was...
I didn't see it.
No. Thought that was it.
Distributed by Universal Pictures, and this had a Criterion release on Blu-ray in 2010.
This movie surprised me how much I enjoyed it because I didn't think I was going to for whatever reason. I guess I've seen Cronenberg and I like all the stuff I've seen, but I have somehow never watched this before. You had seen it before, right?
Yes.
Had you seen it before?
Mm-hmm.
Damn, I'm in the dark. A really good movie. I got lots of vibes of like Clockwork Orange and They Live, actually, kind of with the governmental whatever infiltration of your mind. It's the first thing I can think of that I like James Woods in, but Jared said that he's great in everything, so I got to look into him more.
Yeah, he's James Woods. Watch Digstown. I'm telling you, man.
And this is the first instance in my life that I've ever been like, Debbie Harry is a little bit sexy, isn't she? Look at her. Because previously everybody's always like talking about how fucking sexy Debbie Harry is. I'm like, she's not though, right? But this movie proves me wrong. It's a highly erotic film, Jared. Highly erotic. In a weird way. In a weird society type way. You know what I'm saying? Like a weird body horror.
Off-putting.
Yeah. This seems like the kind of movie that if you watched it on multiple times, you'd notice something completely different every time. Because I know I'm going to watch this plenty more times. It's just there's so much to it. There's so much content. Yeah, there's not much more to say from me aside from never ever, whatever you do, no matter what you do, don't put a gun inside your stomach, pussy, because things get fucked up after that. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, I thought the first act of this movie was painfully slow. The 30 minutes in this movie, and it's still just James Woods trying to find out more about Videodrome. The hallucinations and the body horror is all great, which is kind of I think a given with Cronenberg. Again, this movie felt way longer than the runtime.
Mm-hmm.
Hour 27 minutes. It was every bit of 2 hours and what it felt like. I don't know. Like lots of people like this movie. Some even think it's his best movie. The acting's fine. The music's fine. I do think it is kind of where it was. This 1983. And like this movie still applies today.
Oh yeah,
especially with as much as the technology is relevant today. That technology kind of replaces reality. If you want something weird to watch, like I know people are just into weird stuff. This is it. I really don't understand all the hype about it, but it's okay. I gave it a 7.
Wow, see, I didn't even give my score. I gave it a 10. So
you gave it a 10.
Yeah, I thought this was a classic movie that I should have fucking seen like years ago. I'm like, why the fuck didn't I see this? Perfect.
Oddly, you say that. I did. I think I enjoyed it more back in the day when I watched it than I did now. The first act of it was just really boring. It just drug on and on and on. So
I think I just liked the dirtbag character, like how like he was like, you got any fucking tapes? What do you got? Like this fucking, he was really dirt. Like I could picture guys like that because he's like, it's kind of an underground tape. You never see this. I know guys that are like that. You never find this anywhere. It's fucking rare. Like, but really dirty, you know.
Yeah, I give this one a 9. It's one of my favorite Cronenbergs. I think Naked Lunch is my favorite, but these two are the top. They've kind of switched back and forth. I really like the commentary on culture and how people behave and how they behave with technology. The fact that so many years later, it all still holds up really well, I think is really impressive. The body horror in it, it's Cronenberg, so the body horror in it it's just fantastic. I like the conspiracy feel. I've always loved stuff like that since I was a kid too. So this was one when I watched it when I was a kid. I always loved that stuff, so that kind of tickled that funny bone too. The first act is slow. I always felt it worked for it because it's kind of building the suspense of what is this, and mixing that in with the fact that he is kind of a sleaze. The commentary on about it just kind of how humans are terrible in general. And like everything, it's slow, but it builds slow to what it needs to build for it to work for me. It's just the stuff that Cronenberg does fantastic.
You think add the payoff?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think
he had a handgun.
I think it absolutely
Yeah, he really did.
I mean, there really aren't any good people in this movie. So it kind of sets them up on like it takes that first half hour, the first act to set up the different kinds of bad. It doesn't just make one generic bad character, this is the bad guy, this is the good guy, that kind of archetype and go. It uses Debbie is, is weird and after rushes and kinky, and she gets a little sleazy, and James Woods is sleazy in a different way, shocked at how kinky Debbie is, but almost comes off worse because at least she's honest about it. But then he kind of has his own honesty to his badness.
See, I'm bored already.
And then, that all gets set up in the first act, and that's what makes the story work for me in the last two. And that's how it ties in with all the other stuff that's going on and how Videodrome plays into it. And like I said, the effects, of course, are great. It's Cronenberg. The body horror is fantastic.
That's the only reason why.
The hallucinations and
high.
the weird out stuff, I think, is... I think it's more tripped out in this, not as far as Naked Lunch, but more so than his other stuff, and I enjoy that. And it doesn't the kind of commentary through it. The other thing I like about it is it's not giving you this is what I'm saying. It's just kind of presenting something that lets you think about it in wherever you'll go. So it's not saying this is absolutely what things are. It just kind of gives you. So all of it works together, and it's just great Cronenberg. So for me, it's 9.
And there's nothing better in the whole film than that last shot where he fucking does himself in and says, "Long live the new flesh."
So
fantastic.
Well, so something new we started doing is the Last Roundup Horror Show approved, and that's anything that scores a 24 or higher, which is an average of 8. So this would be.
What'd you give it?
I gave it a 7.
7. Yeah.
So we hit.
So this is
7,
an
9,
approved
10.
movie.
Yeah.
Approved.
We approve it.
Worth watching. I don't think anybody's going to be shocked to find out that somebody gave.
You guys can go ahead and watch video.
Well, I mean, Frank, this was his first time watching it,
true.
so you got to think of all the people that haven't seen this movie.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, you need to fucking watch it. I mean, it's just something that I should have saw fucking when I was a teenager.
Take a look. It's in a book. A reading rainbow. Of death.
All right. Today on the Reading Rainbow of Death, our guest is Murr Winery, author of The Little Dixie Horror Show, The Phantasmagoria Blues, and his newest novel, Trade Your Coffin for a Gun, out from Muzzleland Press. Murr, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
But I start out every interview pretty much just the most basic question: what is it that got you attracted to writing horror?
I've always just enjoyed horror, even as a child. Mostly, I'd say my biggest influences were the midnight movies, and the late night horror movies. Been more influenced by cinema, I think, than by actual horror novel, by writers. I've always been a big fan of Robert E. Howard and Edgar Allan Poe. When I was a kid, I always loved that stuff. So, but really, honestly, cinema and horror movies, especially the Hammer horror movies, the old Universal movies, Italian horror films, those are the things that really have shaped me more than actually literary influences. But that's where my biggest influence is, and that's why I write horror, mostly because of those actors.
That's one thing I think I noticed that stood out in all of them. Even the first one I read, Little Dixie Horror Show, is everything has a very cinematic feel to it. The kind of pacing and the presentation of it. I think you can tell you have that old horror cinema kind of influence in it, which I enjoy quite a bit.
I'm a child of the 80s, so you grew up in the VHS era and cable TV era with horror movies. So I'm lots of horror television shows when I was a kid. Like Plenty Scary Movie on Channel 8 and Creature Feature and crap like that. So yeah, it's definitely an influence.
And even the for those that haven't read, your stuff takes place in an area of Oklahoma called Little Dixie. I believe it's a place you grew up, right?
Yes, sir.
And even the theater in that town, I've noticed that pops up a lot in your work, like whether just a reference or it taking place there. So that's another kind of draw another kind of hint to how much you enjoy cinema is that you kind of have this old spooky style theater that shows up in your work a lot too.
Yeah, it was when I was growing up down in southeastern Oklahoma, there was actually a theater that's based on. I saw a lot of those movies there. I saw some of Fulci stuff there. I mean, in heavily edited states, you know, because his stuff was so butchered. You know, I mean, I'm not like Bruno Mattei stuff. I mean, a lot of the Universal things. Back in the days of the double features, when you could go to the movies for $5 and see 2 movies, but it was a really old, nasty, decrepit movie house back in the 20s that burned down once and then been rebuilt, and it was always really kind of creepy but charming.
Yeah, it seems to fit well in your world that you've built. It that just has the proper feel to it. And speaking of those Italian movies, I just finished your new one, Trade Your Coffin for a Gun, which is one of my favorite books. Easily top 3 or 4 books that I've read over the last year. It was fantastic. The nods to Italian cinema, horror, and Western it's just littered all over the place in it.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And a big influence too. I don't know how familiar you are with Italian crime films, but a lot of the 70s Italian crime films were a huge factor influence on it as well. Just the anti-heroes and the Trade Your Coffin for a Gun were based on a lot of the antics I'd seen in some anti-heroes in the Italian crime films. Specifically, a movie called Live Like a Cop, Die Like a Man. That was a major influence on the book as well. You should watch it if you've never seen it.
I have not. A lot of my Italian experience kind of falls mainly into Fulci and Argento. Outside of those two, and the spaghetti westerns. I grew up watching. Yeah. I grew up watching those, a lot of those, but that's kind of the end of my knowledge. But yeah, I read through the author's note afterwards and checked off a lot of those movies. I got plans to watch those when the time comes available.
What's your favorite spaghetti western?
I grew up on Eastwoods, so the Eastwood movies are kind of are kind of take the cake. Those are the ones I've seen a million times. The other ones are just kind of the other ones are just kind of they were on. The Eastwoods were the ones that played over and over and over at my house.
There was an awful lot of them, so
yes, there were quite a few, but and I lose sometimes which ones ended up being those and which ones didn't. So much Eastwood played, but the Hang 'em High and the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Outlaw Josie Wales, and
yeah, exactly. That's totally a spaghetti western, even though it's Eastwood's movie.
Yeah, and Outlaw Josie Wales was always one of my that one and Pale Rider, I think, were my 2 favorites. But yeah, and all of that is wrapped up in this book. And I was joking with Rab today. I'm not going to give it away to our audience, but when he told me this was coming and what he had going and whatnot, it was like, okay, Western horror, I can dig that. The sound of it sounded kind of vampires, so I was assuming cowboys versus vampires, which isn't an awful kind of generic, but it's not a good explanation of it. I was shocked at how far you ran with the horror aspect. I was not ready for it at all. I mean, you go deep. It is a gory, disgusting. It is a good, gory, disgusting, wild ride, and written in a pacing that makes it a blast.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
So I'll keep some of the spoilers, but out so it can surprise people as well. But don't just be expecting like vampires. There are ghoulish vampire stuff in it, but the dark forces run a lot deeper than just a vampire. So, but that's
when it gets weird. It gets weird.
Yeah. Like there was one part in it that I was like, okay, he's gonna go this route with it. Let's see how he kind of this noise. Let's see how he kind of dances around and handles this in a classy. Oh, nope. No, that's just a cult that does that. Huh. And I wasn't ready for it at all. And it completely caught me off guard, but in a great way. Like it tickled every horror bone in my body in the right way.
Great.
So, and now that was one question specifically I wanted to ask you about that. Do you ever hit a point to where you're like, no, I can't do this?
Not yet. Not yet.
And that was,
I haven't really.
I was gonna say that was one of the things
yet.
about the book that got me is, even in the indie horror scene that I've been reading a lot of stuff over the last year, I wouldn't call the people reserved, but you can feel them hit lines and be like, okay, no further, or pushing it back to maybe keep the story coherent, or just from becoming too out there. There hasn't been a lot of books that I've read where people have approached with glee, I would say. Reckless abandon and glee, kind of getting to the edge of that line and then just unabashedly running across it and seeing where it will go.
Yeah.
And that's where I really love horror fiction, is when, because for me, horror, the brilliant thing about horror is it's the one place where imagination really has no shackles. Just as far as you want to go, it fits. And so when you get a writer who does that, like, that's really what tickles me. And I think Rab's book, Hillbilly Moonshine Massacre, this book, and Hate from the Sky by Sean M. Thompson, which is more bizarro than horror. Those are three of the ones that I've read last year that it just feels like you hit a spot where you're laughing. I imagine you laughing as you're writing this, and then as you laugh, you're like, okay, this is hilarious, I'm gonna go farther.
Yeah. It just gets demented, and you just kind of get into this, I think you hit this weird manic state where you just don't even care.
Yeah, and you do it brilliantly, I would say. And that's the other thing I think that's hard to do about it is, or I would guess is hard to do about it, is you never lose the story, or even close. I was tied to the characters the whole time, and what they were doing and where they were heading. The crazy never overtook them, which I always find impressive.
Yeah.
When you can go that out there but still keep the story coherent. Is that something you consciously really keep track of, or were you just writing and then like going back and fixing, make sure that happens in editing?
Mostly just go back in editing, and that's where that sort of thing starts to get fixed. Rab was pretty instrumental in making sure that if it kind of got a little too freaky, I think he tried to pull the reins in just a bit, which was good, because there were actually some things I did in the beginning. There was a couple of scenes that were really, that I think I pushed it a little too hard, and he was like, this isn't believable. And he was right.
Yeah.
It's like, it needed to stay a little bit grounded, and I think he kept it grounded. So it was really watching him to keep me kind of on point.
Yeah, that's just another question that always has me puzzled when I run into stories like this. Because to me it seems like it would be the hardest thing to do. It's not so hard to kind of let your imagination run rampant. And if you're a good writer, it's probably not as hard to keep your story concise, but letting the two happen at the same time just seems like it would be difficult.
Yeah, I mean, a good editor's everything, and it helps that he's an excellent writer too. So, I mean, he could he's got, I think he's probably got a little more control, and he's able to kind of keep it. Like I said, he was instrumental in keeping me, focused, and like I said, otherwise it did get a little, when the first draft of it kind of went all over the place, So, but it turned out that I'm going back and reading it again. I didn't really read it for a while after I was done. I read it, I said, that's actually pretty tight. I'm pretty proud of it, that it kept it was coherent, and it doesn't feel coherent when you're writing it. It just feels like it's just coming out, and and it's just like fire flying out of you, and then you think it's got to sound like a crazy person ranting, and then you go back and read it, and you're like, wow. A lot of that I owe to Rab, though. was good at kind of keeping the crazy under control.
John's a good fella, a very level-headed and clear-spoken person too. So he's a good guy.
Yes, good guy.
So John, thank you.
Exactly.
And now, sorry, my dog's barking. I gotta shut her up real quick before I go further. I'll take out all this extra stuff. I'll edit it out. Stop. All right. Now, we didn't talk much about the Little Dixie Horror Show, but that is your first book you put out, correct?
Yes, sir.
And a collection of short stories. I would say it is as great as an example of great as an example of indie horror fiction as I think I could give someone with the real aspect on horror. It's great written horror short stories in your world of Little Dixie. Now, how long did it take you to write that one?
It was probably about a year. I'd actually had a couple of one of the stories that actually been published before in an anthology was The Girls of Rebel Run. And after that, I had some mutual friends in Oklahoma City that were in the music scene, and he introduced me to Literati Press, which was Charles Martin, who put the book out. And I just sent him a couple of things, and he liked it, and he said we could do something with it, and we put it together. And but it probably took it was really fast. I mean, it seemed like it really, once it caught fire, it didn't take much work. The second anthology, Phantasmagoria Blues, it took a little longer because I wanted to stretch a little bit. It's not quite as, Rab would say it's not quite as grindhousey, or a pulpy. It still is, but not quite. I think it's a more disturbing and dark book, but it's definitely not as pulpy as Little Dixie Horror Show. Which I think works for it because it's me stretching my wings a little bit on it, and I like it.
And
it's a little harder to get into.
I started reading that, but I was when I got it, I was right in the middle of the Mississippi Bones album, and concentration on anything at that time. So I ended up putting that one up. I just kind of set it aside and was like, I'll get to that when I can concentrate. So,
sure. Yeah.
I can't specifically recommend that one because I haven't read it, but I am glad you talked a little bit about it because I imagine it's quite great. The other two of yours I read have been fantastic. Let me see. We're about at the 16-minute mark, so we'll just kind of anything new you got coming on the horizon that you would want to plug, letting people know where they can find you, and let that noise go out. Letting people know where they can find you and your stuff.
You can find me on Facebook on my Murr Winery Facebook page. I have a website. It's www.littledixiehorseshow.com. Right now, I'm kind of not really sure what I'm going to do next. I've been writing a bunch of short stories for another possible collection, but I might write another novel. So I've got a couple things I'm kind of juggling at the moment. Right now, I'm just trying to focus on plugging Trade Your Coffin for a Gun and see how that goes. I don't really have anything definite about what I'm going to do next yet, though.
Well, and there you go, everyone. Go hunt him down. As I said, Trade Your Coffin for a Gun. I recommend both the books that I've read, but Trade Your Coffin for a Gun really it caught me completely off guard, and I think I read it in 2 days. I think when I finally picked it up and started over again, I couldn't put it down. It was disgusting, horrific, action fun. So
it's like trashy airport book.
Yes, it's everything you talked about in the beginning, talking about it, and done in the perfect balance of all of them. It's just such a great book, so everyone go read that because it is fantastic. And Murr, thanks for joining us today on the Reading Rainbow of Death. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, buddy. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Yes, I love to read. And I'll surely pick up a copy of Trade Your Coffin for a Gun. And while I'm ordering books, I might as well check out another author I've heard so much about, Randall Wotan. I see he has a new book out called A Crimson Autumn, collection of short stories. I think that would pair quite nicely with my brand new Murr Winery selection. Oh, and since I'm ordering all this stuff on Amazon already, I might as well add a copy of our next feature-length film to my cart, The Exorcist 3. Essentially, it's a direct sequel to the original Exorcist, written by William Peter Blatty, also known as the book Legion. The film had a lot of controversy surrounding production, and it's equally interesting as the film itself.
Exorcist 3 from 1990.
Oh, man.
Summary for this film: a police lieutenant uncovers more than he bargained for as his investigation of a series of murders, which have all the hallmarks of the deceased Gemini serial killer, leads him to question the patience of a psychiatric ward.
This one was my pick, and man, this was one of my favorites.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a high rating for me. And just so kind of a little bit more on the story. If you haven't seen 3, I imagine most people have seen 1. Pretty much what happens in this story is the cop from the first one is friends with a priest of the guy who, a priest who is friends with the priest who fell out the window at the end of the first one, and they get together every year on like the anniversary of his death and watch A Wonderful Life. You find out through it that that priest, although he died, played by our own Jason Miller. Even though
fucked me up when I saw that.
Even though he died, the demon in The Exorcist was very angry about getting kicked out of the little girl's body. So he put the Gemini killer, which is this killer that you don't know about, in that priest's body. And he kind of bounces around in old people's heads.
Why didn't you just read us the Legion book?
Well, just
read us the story.
I was about done. There it is. So you have the Gemini killer in the priest from the first one's body.
Also,
and
sometimes Zool, or no, what was it?
And
what was the one from the first one? Zozo? Or was it Captain Howdy? What the fuck was the demon?
Oh, Captain Howdy.
Yeah, was that what it was?
I believe so.
Because there was 3 different fucking people in this body.
Yeah, but what's the killer's name?
The Gemini killer.
The Gemini killer, yeah.
Is the killer in this one. But he was put in there by the demon that was cast out in the first one. It took him years to put enough brainwaves in the priest's body back together to make it function again.
No one's understanding you.
And now he is possessing old people in the crazy place that he is and using them to kill people the way the Gemini killer used to kill people.
What a mess.
And the cop is investigating.
This whole thing, this is why I think that only certain people are going to like this movie, because that is the story. And then it's compounded with confusion by the fact that during production they had shot the whole movie with Brad Dourif,
who is fucking amazing.
He should have won an award for this.
He is fucking amazing.
He doesn't have an award.
That's the acting in this. It's George C. Scott. He's an acclaimed actor, but
he's good.
I fucking lose my shit.
He's great.
Every time he's like talking to him after the movie, and he's like, "Stand close. You smell that? Yes, you do. I haven't bathed in 3 days. My wife's mom is in from town." And he tells the fucking carp story.
Read us the book and act it out. I will get it all from Jared.
But before we get into all the fun stories and shit that happened, I have to explain that the whole movie was shot with Brad Dourif first. And then, because Jason Miller, you weren't available, clearly.
At the time.
When they went to shoot. So when he became available, the studio's like, "Oh, you got to work him in somehow." And William Peter Blatty did not want to do this. He's like, "This is fucking stupid," but he had to abide by their fucking deal. So he decided to flash back and forth in the same character. What was the guy's name? Father Dyer? Yeah, what was the other? What was Brad Dourif's character? Father Karras. Or Patient X, or the Gemini killer. That's why it gets so goddamn confusing.
Father Karras is the one that died in the first one.
But basically,
sometimes it's Jason
He's using
Miller.
his body.
Sometimes it's Brad Dourif.
It's always the same character, but all that shit Jared said's the story, so it's even more confusing.
Both are Father Karras. If you watch it,
I'm sorry to the viewers and listeners.
When you watch the movie, it's way less confusing.
This is all you need to do. Let all that shit go. None of that story matters. Fucking throw that out the window. Focus on George C. Scott. He is the best part of this. Honestly, if they would have not did the whole movie and just took George C. Scott and the dude who played Father Dyer and put them in a buddy
Yeah,
flick,
they were good together.
I want to watch that TV show or that fucking movie, whatever that is.
Yeah, and just a movie of Brad Dourif.
Oh yeah,
yelling about shit.
Yeah, my favorite scene is the fish story. There's an extended story he tells about this. What is it? A goldfish?
A carp.
A carp going up and down, back and forth.
His mother-in-law likes to cook carp, but you gotta cook it. She's gotta clean it of impurities, so she leaves it in the bath water.
Yeah.
Now, I suppose you have all sorts of rosary biz and the like.
No. This is a goose. Maybe you should go home and rest.
I can't go home.
Why?
The carp.
You know, I thought you'd say.
My wife's mother is visiting, Father. And Tuesday night she's cooking us a carp. It's a tasty fish. I have nothing against it. But because it's supposedly filled with impurities, she buys it live. And for 3 days it's been swimming up and down in my bathtub. Up and down. And I hate it. I can't stand the sight of it. Moving its gills. Now, you're standing very close to me, Father. Have you noticed? Yes. I haven't had a bath for 3 days. I can't go home until the carp is asleep. Because if I see it swimming, I'll kill it.
That's what I remembered most from this, because I remember you were the first person that showed me this movie.
I love this movie.
And that is the one fucking thing I remember laughing so hard about.
And not overly violent.
No. It's more dialogue than anything else.
You don't...
It's crime detective horror.
Yeah, you don't really see anybody get killed.
No.
There wasn't even supposed to be everyone always talks about the studio interference. There wasn't even supposed to be an exorcism scene in this.
Yeah, and that's the only one you see get killed.
Yeah, that was a production thing that was thrown in there.
It was supposed to be titled Legion, but once the studio found out connected to The Exorcist, it's part of The Exorcist, they demanded it be called Exorcist 3, and then
because the terrible Exorcist 2 had already been made.
I can't remember. What was it? Is
I've
it
never
called
seen
Heretic?
that. Yeah, I've never seen that one.
You're not missing.
If I have,
It's
and this one completely ignored that one anyway.
Well,
this is a direct sequel.
The books went from 1 to Legion. There is no.
Yeah,
there was no in
what's
between.
What's the third one's name? Third book.
Is there a third one?
Well, there's another one. There's one after this.
There was one after Legion. I don't know. I've only read the first one.
Maybe
Legion.
not.
There are 3 movies.
Maybe
and
the
I know
one I'm
of only
thinking
2
is between
books.
the 1 and 3.
There's an Exorcist 2 movie that was never
right.
William
It's a
Peter
book titled
Blatty's.
something else. There's 3 books to this.
Oh, yeah.
This trilogy.
Yeah, I didn't even know there was a third book to it. I've just read 1 and 2.
Yeah, if you can find the
Go to the
director,
Reading
I
Rainbow.
really want to watch the director's.
Yeah,
cut of
I'll
this.
get William Peter Blatty on here. I'll call him up. I'm sure he'll talk to me.
What's he doing? Is he alive?
I don't even know.
I think he is alive.
What's he doing?
Not talking to me. He's probably busy.
I
not
think he
talking
was
to me.
involved in
Call
the
him up.
more recent Exorcist.
But yeah,
stuff.
the second Exorcist movie followed Reagan, and there's no point to it.
But if you can find the director's cut of this, it doesn't have Jason Miller in it at all. It's all Brad Dourif.
I've never seen that,
and I don't think I've ever seen it either. Blatty managed to make a great film, even though the studio was in his back pocket. Through this whole thing.
He may not have liked it, but I don't think any of the studio, like The Exorcism,
that was forced. It felt really forced to me.
It doesn't hurt the movie to me.
No, but I'll tell you what, George C. Scott would have
fine with
fucking died when he fell from the ceiling.
You
I don't care.
absolutely didn't need it, but it didn't feel forced.
Not only that,
and I do like cutting back and forth between Brad Dourif and Jason Miller. I actually like that.
not only is that scene, I'm okay with that scene. That scene gets better every time I watch this movie, but also the entire movie gets better. Every time I watch this movie, I like it better.
Notice something new.
This has been one of my favorites for years.
How about the cameos, huh?
Yo, Patrick Ewing? Are we kidding?
Larry King?
Oh, yeah. Evidently Samuel L. Jackson.
What was in
but I
Georgetown?
didn't
That's
see
where he
him.
went to college.
Oh, yeah.
That makes sense.
I didn't see Samuel L. Jackson, but those dream sequences were fucking fantastic. This is a great movie. If they could carve about 15 or 20 minutes off of the conversation somewhere, I'm sure they could, because it's pretty long.
And how crazy the beginning of this show sounded.
Yeah.
Trying to explain the movie, the way they put everything together and all the pieces come
Seamless.
together.
You don't question. There's
writing
no
is
confusion.
perfect.
No confusion. And they never actually have to fully explain it.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that's almost impossible to explain to somebody without sounding like Jared did earlier.
And I'll keep doing it. I enjoy talking about the movie.
I've seen this fucking thing a lot of times, and his explanation, I got lost in it.
It's almost better not to even try to explain it. Just read a quick summary, or just go into it blindly. I would recommend seeing the first before watching this one.
Yeah.
Because
gives you a little bit more on the characters.
That's going to tie everything else.
It makes George C. Scott. It makes you feel it more.
Anyways, I gave this a 9 out of 10. It could have, and I might have, if I see the director's cut, might be a 10 out of 10.
What'd you give it, Jared?
I'm right with Frank. 9 out of 10. A 10 out of 10 if you got to see the kills.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
It's real close to 10. Acting's great. The
Did you give it a 9
atmosphere.
too?
I gave it a 9.
Wow.
The atmosphere is great. I was getting to that. Damn it, Frank.
I'm sorry. I was just astonished. That's the first time we all three
I really
hit the same
love.
score.
I love old hospitals. I love like the old churches and that feel that has all of this in it. A great story. Again, the story is much simpler than what we probably made it sound like. Just a great
If you're
score.
confused, I'll tell you again.
Has a great score, and The Exorcist has one of the greatest theme songs of all time. Yes, Frank, I do give it a 9.
3 9s.
3 9s. That's the first time we all three.
That's a Last Roundup Horror Show first.
That's the last round.
Can you put?
It's definitely top rated movie.
Can you put like a trophy graphic or maybe some like confetti going boo 999 like slot machine ending on 9s? Boo 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 shoo.
That's the jackpot. That's the Last Roundup Horror Show jackpot.
That's the jackpot.
Let's go into.
Brad Dourif is truly fantastic in The Exorcist 3, but equally as fantastic is the star of our next featured review, Andy Serkis, best known as Smeagol, or Gollum, from Lord of the Rings. He has also a million other things that he's worked on over the years. One of his deepest cuts is a film from 2008 entitled The Cottage, in which Serkis plays an inept kidnapper who is forced to deal with a maniacal farmer in the middle of nowhere. The special effects are great, the blood and gore are everywhere, and the laughs are abundant.
The Cottage from 2008, written and directed by Paul Andrew Williams, actively involved in many films, but none of which I'm familiar with, so I can't really comment on that. So the cast here,
Andy Serkis is a human.
as a human named David,
No CG.
no CG. Doug Bradley's in this movie
Doug Bradley.
as a villager with a dog. I'd like to see him in more shit. I'll tell you what. If you don't know who Doug Bradley is, he's Hellraiser. Or is that Pinhead? Do they call him Pinhead?
Just call him Hellraiser.
Let's call him Hellraiser.
The last book, I think they called him Hell Priest.
The guy that plays the farmer, the murderer of this movie, is Dave Legino. He passed away from a heat stroke in 2014 from hiking, so watch out out there, guys. It's not safe.
Stay hydrated.
It's pretty cold these days, though. So
He actually had a fulfilling career, though. This wasn't his highlight. He was a main, like a big character in the Harry Potter films, and he had an MMA career. So R.I.P. Dave Legino. I don't know why I'm taking an aside to fucking mention that. But
Frank thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Got dark. No, that's sad.
Yeah. The summary for this movie.
I like how you got to tell Frank how to feel emotions. No, Frank, no, that's sad. Not funny. We gotta keep cue cards in here and hold them up for every time Frank's feeling the wrong emotion.
We gotta take a break.
I need some counseling.
Pull yourself together.
The summary for this movie. In a remote part of the countryside, a bungled kidnapping turns into a living nightmare for four central characters when they cross paths with a psychopathic farmer and all hell breaks loose. And the girl you want to see her tits don't show them, so don't get excited, guys. All movie, man. All fucking movie. I'm waiting. They cut her head in
It's
half.
clear
what I base everything on.
Why she got cast.
Yeah.
Well, at least that helped anyway.
But she had a.
I thought she was really good in the movie.
She was.
She is a good actress.
Angry, foul mouth.
She beats the crap out of one of the brothers. It
Calls,
seems like the entire movie.
She calls everyone a cunt through the whole movie.
And let's be clear, this is a horror comedy.
Yeah. It is not really nice to see Andy Serkis as not a monster or a troll or a thing that's CGI.
It's just Andy Serkis as a human.
Just out of my own personal interest, I wondered how much is he worth, because his credits on IMDb are like, he's in fucking everything, man. Anything that makes a noise, he probably does the voice of it or whatever, $28 million. Good job.
You can't put a price tag on Andy Serkis.
No,
So we have
but $28 million.
4 people who kidnap this girl. They want $100,000. Like it ain't a lot.
$100,000,
wasn't it? 3 people.
Andy Serkis has his brother in on it.
No, 3. Yes, what did
Yeah,
I
it's
say?
3.
4?
Yeah.
3.
Andy Serkis has his brother in on it because they split a house. They have a house that their mom had that she left to both of them before they died. His brother is not the criminal type, so Andy Serkis has got him in on it under the assumption that he'll give him his half of the house after this is all go down. The girl they kidnapped is like a mob boss's daughter.
She's just a badass, really.
So,
and the guy that's helps the brothers kidnap this girl is the stepbrother of the girl.
yes, and he's a big dummy.
Yes.
And so, in a comical way, the kidnapping goes wrong. The girl gets loose and kidnaps Andy Serkis's brother. They
turns the table.
They run off through the woods and end up at a farmhouse of a guy who is apparently in a machete accident. If the news clippings are, they don't really get into the killer very much. He's a mangled-looking dude that kills people, has a bunch of severed heads in his basement.
Great character.
Yeah, just enough. At one point he was normal and looked like he was getting married. I'm guessing the mutilation ruined his life. I don't know. He kills people now is what he does and keeps their body parts.
I thought that I never really know. I've seen Andy Serkis in other stuff before, but I never noticed how much he looks like Gary Sinise. He looks like they could be brothers, and I'm thinking they really need to make like a Gary Sinise, Andy Serkis buddy cop, or not buddy cop. Maybe they're criminals. They're on the run from a crime they didn't commit. On acid. Well, I don't know. It came to my mind that I would like to see that. I looked up have you ever looked at the parental guide on IMDb?
No.
For any of these movies, where it lists off like I do it if I'm wanting to watch a movie with my kids, I'll check it out. A lot of times I'll break down. I'm like, that's all right. Police Academy does have a blowjob scene in it, but I did it for.
You've got to learn sometime.
Yeah, I did it for this movie. Took it to the parental guide on IMDb for violence and gore, just the violence and gore part. A woman's head is ripped in two with a shovel. A man's nose is broken. A man is stabbed in the leg with a pickaxe. A man's foot is cut in two with a shovel. A man is stabbed in the crotch with a knife. The antagonist cuts into a body's back with a knife off screen.
Yep, he yanks the spine out with the head.
And you hear the noise and see some blood spurt and rips the head off of his vertebrae column. Jesus, in silhouette. The head and vertebral column is later thrown through a window by the antagonist. A man is stabbed through the chest with a pickaxe. A man is strangled with a rope. A man is eaten alive off screen. That's
okay for a kid. I mean,
I like how deep the description goes on that whole scene where he tears the head off.
Yeah, I think everything in this movie is really solid. It's a horror comedy. It's a really good horror comedy. The comedy is really good.
It's written really well.
And it has slasher. It's a comedy slasher.
Yeah,
so it also has the slasher element.
Hatchet, Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Definitely
is the storyline. Just those two kind of smashed together, and then you got this kidnapping. The actors in it, not all of them you would say are like, oh, amazing actors, but it's comedy. They nail the timing of everyone. Is perfect.
The brothers the chemistry between the brothers are great.
Everyone,
the one brother was in Shaun of the Dead. Do you remember that scene when the two groups are passing? The nerdy dude, his opposite.
that's who that guy is. That was like they credited it on the back of the DVD that he's in Shaun of the Dead. That's his character. He's only in it for like 30 seconds.
Pretty much everyone in this movie is funny. Has funny elements to their character, and they all nail them.
The power dynamic between the two brothers, where he always lights his cigarette for him, like little shit like that.
Yeah, one's a badass and one's a little bitch.
Yeah.
Like they're complete opposites, and they work great together.
Yeah, the chick beats up the one brother through the whole movie.
Yeah,
the whole movie smacks
Breaks
the
his
fuck out of
It
him.
seems like the entire movie she's beating
when she dislocates his jaw, that is so fucking funny because he can barely talk.
But and Frank pretty much told you all the kills, the effects in it. It's practical effects. They're all really good. Lots of rooms with body parts. The comedy all sticks in the right place. I found this movie. It was one of those black sheep buys that I did, just walking around Walmart. It was in a bin for $5. I saw it and said, "What the shit? I'll go ahead and buy it." I bought it and got home, and it was just. This movie always has a special place for me anytime you get those magic buys.
Oh, yeah.
Where you have no idea what
That's
you're
what
getting.
Slither was for me.
You have no idea what you're getting. You get home, you put
Blind
it in.
buys.
All of a sudden, like, you've got a new great movie.
Mhm.
So that's why I chose this one this
I
time.
thought the soundtrack had a perfect tone. It was like kind of like The Burbs a little bit, and it was filmed like a Hatchet movie. I thought the farmer looked a lot like Fire Marshal Bill from In Living Color, which I liked. I can't help but say that I do. He was the only thing I thought could use some work. All the kill scenes were fucking fantastic. When he cuts that dude's foot in half, when he cuts the chick's head in half.
Yeah, practical effects are great.
I don't understand the cannibal women in the basement, but
I think you're just supposed to assume it's people he's locked up.
And I would have been fine with anything. I just I'm glad that nobody makes it out alive in this. You don't get that a lot of times. And
yeah.
And the scene after the credits is just hopefully they're going to have a sequel. So we'll see.
I don't think
it's going to happen.
It's been about a decade. I don't see that coming.
Yeah, I rated this one high.
But yeah, there's a scene at the end of the credits. So make sure to get through the
Watch
credits.
it or not. It doesn't matter.
Way before Marvel. Was that way before Marvel? When Marvel start doing stuff?
A long time ago, though. If you technically count like the original Punisher movie. Or,
No, I mean when they start doing like the Iron Man. When it was Iron Man.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Around
whatever.
This time. I gave it a 9 though.
Yeah, so do I. I give it a 9. This is about as perfect as a horror comedy as you can get. I think the only thing that stops it from being a 10 is as a horror comedy, it doesn't go over the top, violence wise. Not that it's underplayed, but like I think of Black Sheep and Dead Alive as really perfect horror comedies, and the violence.
Tone of this reminded me of Cemetery Man or something like that. It's like
you don't run into any stupid. Okay, now we're going to kill 15 people all at once in this ridiculous kind of way.
What'd you give it, Jason?
Well, I gave it a 7. I thought the acting was good. The monster looked okay. The practical effects were good. Even the music even helped it move along in some places, because I thought that I thought it was a little slow sometimes. I thought the pacing was a bit off. Like I would have liked to have seen more of the monster portion of it. Like they spent a lot of time just in a kitchen, and it's not necessarily bad because again them two together is good. So 7.
A lot can be said about new horror not having the flavor or passion of yesteryear, but these last 3 reviews have the spirit, the love, and the craftsmanship to be considered modern-day classics. Please enjoy our last 3 featured reviews: Deathgasm, The Ritual, and The Babysitter. All 3 are fantastic in their own ways, and all of them are recommended by our 3 hosts. Keep your ears peeled for a brand new set of reviews to drop on July 10th. Our Friday the 13th special will of course be released on Friday the 13th. Thanks for listening.
Deathgasm. All spelt in capitals. Lowercase is for pussies.
How'd you guys like this one?
I liked it.
Yeah.
Straight away, the very first thing that I noticed was the visuals of it. It looks great.
Yeah, Jared had told me that before he finished it, he told me that it was what did you say, like a teen romance comedy or something?
Yeah, I watched it in chunks. I watched up to where the teacher starts throwing up blood, and then finished the rest of it like a day or two later. So that first chunk I thought was very like teen comedy. It was heavy on that, I thought, and light on blood, but it more because
That's
when you don't
because they were doing the
when you don't get the ending right away. All I had was like 2 days to sit on that bit of it.
They were doing those intercut drawing things like they did on Superbad and shit like that. A lot of dick drawings and a lot of dicks in general.
Well, and the second half of the movie is...
But also there's Power Rangers in this, dude. There's 3 people from Power Rangers in this.
The second half of the movie is where all the great stuff is. I don't think the first stuff is... I don't think it did any detriment. It's just if you only watch that. I walked away being like, I don't know about this one. This might not be what I thought it was going to be. And a lot of times metal movies that focus heavily on metal, it feels a little forced.
Yes, I think
someone.
I just watched another one. I think it was Devil's Candy. It was very, it was metal, and I agree. They all feel forced.
Yes, someone. I don't know if it was the people making it, but someone was into this. Like when he pulls the Autopsy record out.
Yeah.
Like someone was around being like, no.
But why so much Trivium? Trivium was on every fucking thing. It was everywhere.
But yeah, the main characters are like, I mean, you look at it, they make them into like black metal, the blackest of black metal kind of dudes.
They did a parody of that. What's that band? That black metal band. Can't even think of it. But they did a parody of a black metal video.
But but then, like you said, when you start tossing in like Trivium and you're moving into a generic, that, it's just never done great. But it didn't. I mean, for what the movie is, it doesn't fucking matter.
No, because everything's over the top.
None of this, all these little things. None of it matters for
the
what
main
the movie
dude.
is.
What's his name? Brody, is that his name? And the lead girl are both from Power Rangers, one of the series, and the chick from the record store that does the psychic readings, she's from Power Rangers also.
It's Power Ranger movie.
But they say you can sync this movie up to Iron Maiden's Live After Death, and it like perfectly aligns like a Pink Floyd.
I may try that
thing. Yeah. Basically, these guys. What happens is this kid, his mom gets put in jail for trying to suck off Santa Claus. Is that what happened?
Yeah, she was high on meth.
And he has to move in with his really religious uncle and dickhead cousin. And of course, they lump him in with a slobby dude and a fucking nerd that plays D&D.
None of that matters. A metal band finds a hymn that raises a devil. Yeah. They play it not knowing what it was. The town turns into demons, and a lot of people get
a lot of
killed
awesome shit happens
in crazy, ridiculous ways.
I love it when he kills his cousin, just to fucking kill him.
No, because like when he came in, he was all like, his eyes. You seen that, right?
Oh my god! Yeah, the gore was great. I loved every bit of it.
The visuals are great. The director Jason Lee, I think it's Jason Lee Howden. Again, this is his first full-length movie. But previously, he's known for his visual effects. He worked on the Hobbit movies, the Wolverine, Prometheus. Like visuals is his thing. And from the get-go, like as soon as the movie starts, I love the visuals. I love the cut scenes to where they have like they're standing on the mountain.
That's awesome.
Like a metal cover, like it. Yeah, visually, this movie is great.
It pretty much hits on everything it needs
practical
to be.
Practical effects, great.
To be good at what it's supposed to be. Like, it's funny as shit.
Yeah.
The little stuff I was telling Frank about the first half is just because I hadn't got to the part that you watched the movie for. and all I had was the parts that you don't care about, and so that second half of the movie. I mean, honestly, I'm not going to take away from Good's film because I think it's really good, but you can just watch the second half of the movie. Yeah, that's true. I mean, it's one of those.
He was just warming up his first.
And you'll
first
miss
half of the movie.
You'll miss some good stuff, a few good scenes in the first part, but it's not quite as. That's my only issue with it is normally those kind of movies are full go from the beginning. They waited till halfway through. Doesn't hurt the movie, but in this kind of movie, I don't want to wait. Just, I mean, it's called Deathgasm.
Yeah,
Let's
I didn't.
just get to it.
Going off the trailer. I didn't expect to like this movie as much as I did. Like I didn't think I was going to be into it that much at all. But
yeah, I figured I would. There hasn't been much of those New Zealand over the top.
Yeah, I love that New Zealand accent. I don't know why, but I just fucking do.
The old Peter Jackson stuff with Dead Alive and Bad Taste. One that I almost picked for this time for my old one, but I decided something else instead. Black Sheep is another one.
I just got that.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
Maybe I will pick it instead of Body Melt. It's 2006, but that's over a decade old.
Yeah, I just.
We shouldn't have restrictions.
I just ordered from the UK real cheap. It's only like
I got it
like
on DVD
$5.
too, Frank. I might pick that one instead. But anyways, like Black Sheep and Undead, I believe that one was another New Zealand one. Like they're and of those, Deathgasm's probably my least favorite.
Undead's the one with the aliens in it, right?
Yeah,
that's really good.
but I still rate it pretty high. I mean, it being my least favorite is. That doesn't mean it's very low. Like I love those New Zealand over the top, just crazy, insane, nonstop death and ridiculousness. I like that in a movie.
It was a really really good movie.
Would you rate it, Jason?
Let's see. I gave it a 7. I gave the plot a 5. I didn't. The writing to the movie. I mean, there's.
I gave the plot not relevant.
I mean, it's just the middle of the road. Like, it wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It is what it is. I liked the acting in it. I thought the characters were great. I gave it a 7. There really wasn't a whole lot of atmosphere there, so I think 7's a good score.
I think in the end, the reason this one is it isn't as high as Undead or Black Sheep or Brain Damage is because the overall story isn't as ridiculous as, like, Dead Alive. A rat monkey bites a dude's mom and he keeps the zombies in his basement and they spread. That's ridiculous. The Black Sheep, a dude's humping a sheep.
That's a good story.
Genetic.
That's an 8 in my book. So,
but a dude's
rat monkey
humping a sheep to make a genetically superior sheep, and they turn into were sheep.
Yeah, were sheep.
Like that is an undead. The aliens taking over and raising.
Oh, and that dude has that awesome shotgun.
I mean, that's the storyline from Plan 9 from Outer Space. I mean, and this one is a couple kids form a metal band, and it's not as over the top.
But he does use the power of a tasty fucking guitar solo to bring his buddy out of the devil.
it's like I said, it's just not as over the top. And in those movies, I like them. It's just way over the top. I gave it.
This wasn't over the top enough for you.
Storyline.
Because I thought this was. I mean, I said that earlier. Everything's over the top. I got it right here. Wrote it down.
He has a spin move with 2 chainsaws, and he has corpse paint.
It's over the top.
We were talking storyline. The storyline wasn't as over the top as what I like in those.
Right. And his wife also helped.
I give the
this.
movie a 7, but I give the second half of the movie a 9. The second half of the movie is everything that it should be.
Your guys' scales kill me.
I went with an 8.
Wow.
This is right in my wheelhouse, but I thought that the devil at the end, that could have been done a little bit fucking cool, because everything else was so awesome, and that was like.
I feel this was a little Tenacious D. Too.
Yeah, I felt that the cutaways especially. That looked like some shit out of their albums.
The devil at the end looked like a really bad version of Dave Grohl in Tenacious D.
Yeah, and they said that this was based on Evil Dead, sort of. So why would they could have done the beginning different without? Don't involve the school at all. Get the school out of there, and it would be a lot better because that made it seem like you were watching Look, She's Hot Now or whatever that fucking movie is.
They took time. They took time to introduce characters to you.
Yeah.
And put them in situations to make you think about who the characters are. It works against this movie a little bit because I generally, like even in The Void, I was like, I don't care who they are. But in this movie especially, I don't care who they are. I don't care who they are. I don't care who they're killing. Just do it.
Yeah, because the beginning, like, what, half hour, it's like, Sandy, or whatever the fucking names are.
The part where, what really got me, and it was one of the parts that came close to my end of the first chunk that I watched. Like, when you get into, pass this guy the note, I didn't pass the note, I showed up instead, I'm going to start making out with my best friends. Like, all of that, you could have had more people getting killed instead of that.
Yeah.
It tries to make you care.
Yeah, it tried to actually make a more normal, stronger story.
Yeah, that kid gets bullied, gets pushed down, gets.
Yeah. It just.
They added real life stuff into a not real life movie.
Yeah.
Unnecessary.
What a Jim Dandy film this was. The Ritual. What year did that come out, you say?
2017.
Just now, just recently. Check it out on Netflix. Summary: a group of college friends reunite for a trip to the forest, but encounter a menacing presence in the woods that's stalking them. Directed by David Bruckner, known for Southbound and his short on VHS.
He also did the Signal, which is... That's pretty high up there for me. If you guys haven't seen The Signal, check that out.
Written by Joe Barton and based on the novel by Adam Neville. Neville?
Aaron Neville?
It's Aaron Neville's brother, Adam.
Did Aaron Neville? It totally is.
Check out this producer credit, though. Andy Serkis. Huh?
Yeah, I saw that.
I'll tell you what. I just love movies about guys in the woods, so it doesn't fucking matter what they're doing to me. I mean,
the setting of this movie, it hits on so many levels. The forest, hiking, camping. I love that.
I'd watch this movie. I'd watch fucking Daniel Stern and Bushwhacked. I don't know if you guys have seen that one. Anything. Whitewater Summer with Kevin Bacon's a good flick.
Oh,
but no, these guys are some buddies that are going up to do this hike because their friend gets beaten to fucking death.
Let's pause right there for a second.
Pause.
Let me ask you guys what you would do in that situation.
Well, you have to not go hide behind a stack of bottles and stand beside your friend, I would assume.
So what do you do?
They didn't have a gun. He just had the pipe.
I believe they didn't have a gun.
Yep, just have the pipe. You got the dude had a glass bottle in his hand, and his buddy stand there 2-on-2. I say you don't just stand there.
Is that what you're? That's what you would do. If Frank's getting ready to, Frank won't hand over his wedding ring.
I don't wear one.
At least I don't tell him not to do that. I'd be like, just get the shit and have him get out. But definitely, because he didn't die till the second one. Definitely the first whack with the pipe.
Yeah.
I'm out there making sure he doesn't get hit again.
But I
got weapons, throwing bottles from afar. It'd be a surprise. Like,
throw them from across.
I mean, there's lots of bottles in there.
Yeah.
So I'd just stand there the whole time until he's dead.
Don't you turn back around when you?
Did you say Frank?
I did say Frank.
Oh,
yeah.
No matter who, really.
Well,
I mean, you see someone get busted in the face.
Yeah, any
once.
friend or stranger. Frank, 50-50.
I would assume if you're standing next to somebody and you turn and
Microwave
run away,
Massacre really chapped me.
Well, I'm sure we'll talk about a film
I'm
you
kidding.
picked. But
I'm kidding, Frank.
No, I think that if you turn around and you like start to go hide behind some shit and you realize your buddy doesn't, you don't just go do it. You're like, oh, we're not doing that, right? Okay, I'm here. Right? I thought we were gonna do that because that seemed like that's what I wanted to do instinct wise. But no, he gets smashed and killed.
Okay.
So they go to I don't know if they scattered his ashes, did they? Or just
I think they just did a little
memorial, put his picture on a rock,
stone shrine.
Well, then let's pause right there too. All right, because this ain't a funny movie, but
no.
So they have a flask and they're all passing around the stacked up stones,
I
the
know what you're
memorial.
gonna say.
They're all taking a drink of the flask. It gets to the last guy. He takes a drink, like a lot of people do. You pour one for the fallen, the deceased. It must have been at least three-quarters of the way full, because
that was like a fifth.
Like I started to laugh, and then I was like, oh, this ain't a funny part.
Yeah,
like I should have been laughing right here.
They held a little long.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, go ahead.
But everything that happens after the night in a weird cabin, because they decide to take a shortcut when the whiny guy breaks his ankle, or hurts his ankle. He doesn't break it, but so they're going to walk through these woods, take a straight shot, try to get back to the cabin or wherever.
I think it's a lodge. I don't.
Yeah, but they run into this weird cabin when it's like storming really bad. They sleep there. All this creepy, like, honestly, it reminded me of like what I would have wanted the Blair Witch Project to be, like that kind of witchcraft, like nature type of witchcraft.
Yeah, that's what the first 2/3 of this movie reminded me of, like a not found footage, really good.
If something would have happened, I think I've said it before. If something would have happened in Blair Witch, like that, that's
Yeah,
what this movie would have been.
This movie it's slow like that through the first chunk.
I disagree. No, I disagree.
It gives you some
I'm
nuggets.
not
along
saying
the
it
way.
like it's atmospheric.
The first 20 minutes you're getting to know the characters, but right after 20 minutes you see the deer carcass in the trees. I mean, that's 20 minutes in and stuff starts happening.
But that's not anything happening other than seeing a deer carcass. That's my point. It's
Well,
more
the cabin,
psychological.
when they get to the cabin.
And nothing, a nightmare, but nothing really happens when they get to the cabin. I'm not saying it's in a bad way or it drugs.
Still, I disagree with you. I think this was paced perfect
for the first 2/3 for what it is, but it's a slower movie. The first 2/3 is a lot more psychological. It's more just about how scared they are. There's nothing really happening to them until past half of the first half.
Yeah. Stuff starting to.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's like a slow drudge. I was just saying it's a slower pace.
The only thing I can say bad
especially
about
compared
this-
to the end.
The only thing bad I can say about the movie is you don't see the monster until like the last third of the movie, which is fine. But everybody does that. Like, fucking, like, come on, man. Just
Well, I
chill
mean,
with the fucking thing.
40 minutes in, you get your first glimpse of the creature.
But I want I want to see the mother. I want to evaluate it.
I know that's what you want to do, but you are watching horror, and horror is driven on suspense. So
but it almost seems like they're always trying to hide special effects flaws by not showing it like.
Oh no, I don't think
full
that's it.
lit up, nice. Bring it on to me.
I
Bring
don't
it
think
up
it's
to
a
me.
jerky transition, but this movie definitely has two really different paces. There's the first half,
First 2/3,
and then
the only
the
thing I
end.
hear people say about it is the third act. They have a problem with that.
I loved the third.
And I can't. I don't understand that at all. I'm like, well,
That's
what?
the best part.
What do you want? Like, what do you want? Do you just want it to be hillbillies in the woods? I mean, because this is one of the best creatures I've seen.
The first 2/3 of it reminded me of the pace of like a dark song.
Yeah,
it's more that feel. The atmosphere's in it's great.
Well, I'm just saying that every complaint I hear about this movie is the last act,
That's
and
the
I
best
just
part.
I can't.
The
understand
monster
it.
looks fucking great.
I don't know what else. I don't know what else you want.
It's one of the best monsters you'll ever see in a movie. I mean, I've never seen something that fucking creepy, and also deer-like. I like you just.
And you see it in all of its glory. You see it face to face.
I think this movie would have benefited. I really liked this movie. I rated it high. I think what would have benefited this movie if they ran the pace they did through the first third, through the second third.
Man, I don't. You keep bringing up pace. I don't have a single problem with the pace of this.
I don't have a problem with it.
I thought it was great, and even I guess even when you're talking about a slower pace, you still have. There's just great chemistry and great characters.
I
in
had
it.
it.
So
It's great acted.
I
and
like.
great done.
I guess maybe I just don't. I don't pick up on anything slow. Like I thought it was just
slow paced.
so much atmosphere, so much chemistry between the characters.
You're acting like slow pace is an insult, though.
No.
It's just not.
Well, you're kind of. I think you said the only knock you have is that it
Yeah,
was.
it is a negative attribute, I think.
No, you didn't let me finish. I said the only knock I had is, and it's not a knock. What would have made this movie better? The first third stays the same pace. The second third, since they were starting to have nightmares and people freaking out, I think they could have went not third act big monster running
More
around.
psychological.
But I think they could have gotten into like more seeing things and really tripped out. That second third of it, they kind of keep the same flow as the first. I think they could have bumped it up in the second third a little, and then the third act would come in a lot smoother. I don't mean...
I mean, I feel they do, but apparently that wasn't enough for you.
I thought they did a really nice job of mixing the hallucinations, like when the monster's chasing that dude, of him running through the liquor store.
Yeah, the flashbacks. Yeah,
I could have used that.
That works great in this movie.
I could have used that for everyone.
The way having the store lights and everything in the forest, it looks beautiful. It's the cinematography, and it's just shot.
Yeah, in that
shot great.
Everyone had their own nightmares. In that second third, I could have used everyone's nightmares. Is kind of where, but that's it. I think the movie was great. The atmosphere is fantastic. I have 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I give it a 9 out of 10. The cool thing about the monster is, and I just wanted to mention this before we move on to Jason, but it was a descendant of Loki.
Yep.
And I read up about it, and it said that these, like, they're tricksters. So that's what a lot of the delusions that he's making people have are. And of course, he marks the people that are suffering enough in life, and that's what that whole room full of dead people is.
Yeah, what a great scene that is, and freaky.
I forgot to mention too. I love monsters. The monster in this is fantastic. Yeah. It is an amazing looking monster. The storyline they put behind it is great too.
Like I said, most people's problems that I've came across is the third act, and again, that's the glory of this movie. But
the best part.
But like you mentioned, that room up there. At first, I was like, what? Like what are these? Like I thought they were, just like figures made out of sticks, like you see in the cabin.
Yeah.
And then once they start moving and stuff, and then it clicks that she said that this god, the bastard son of Loki, takes people with great pain, and he'll take that pain away and make you live forever if you worship him. And then once that clicked with me, like, so these are, I'm guessing, like the oldest people in this village type thing.
I think it's great. Yeah. I haven't heard anyone complain about the third act, but that shocks me because this is one of the first of those. I know you hate when I use the term, but slow, suspenseful psychologicals that they build up the tension the whole way through. 99% of the time, you don't get much at the end.
Yeah, I don't know what people want.
And like, this is one of the first ones I've ever seen that they deliver full bore. They build it all the way up, and then are like, bam.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought it was fantastic.
It has great characters. The music, it has a great score. It's beautiful, shot well. The creature is one of the coolest ones I've ever seen. The atmosphere, like I've said, camping, hiking in the woods, like that's stuff that I'm into. So that brings more of a reality to it all. And my first rating on this was a 9. And I got to thinking, like, what is stopping me from giving this movie a 10? Can't think of a single thing. And I did the same thing with Exorcist 3. Like, I don't know if I'm scared to give movies 10s or what, because the Exorcist 3 should have been a 10, and this is a 10 for me. Like, this is the most I've enjoyed a modern movie. So I think you're gonna, well, hopefully you see a lot more 10s coming out, but yeah, I don't know if I was just scared to give movies 10s or what. But I mean, like The Exorcist 3, not to keep going back to that, but we all gave it a 9. Like, really, like,
again, that it had one thing that I would add, and you don't see any of the.
Well, we ain't gonna go back to that anyway.
Yeah, I don't want to think about why I didn't give it a 10.
And this one has a reason for me too why I wouldn't give it a 10. It'd have been a 10. If
my initial score was a 9, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like this, I enjoyed every single thing about this movie. I really hope it gets a Blu-ray release. I want it on my shelf.
Yeah, this is one of the best new ones I've seen.
10 all the way,
easily.
Let's go with The Babysitter.
Let's go with The Babysitter, and that probably a nice, agreeable. Everyone's on the same page.
Gonna go down smooth,
like a cup of water. You won't even know you're drinking something.
Here's the summary. The events of one evening take an unexpected turn for the worst for a young boy trying to spy on his babysitter.
That's exactly what happens.
Yeah. Written by Brian Duffield, who also wrote the 2015 sci-fi film Insurgent, which I've never seen.
But do you know who directed this movie?
McG.
Did you check him out?
Yeah.
Did he do Supernatural? No, not Supernatural.
McG?
Yeah.
A TV thing.
Supernatural.
Is it
right?
Supernatural?
I think it's Supernatural.
He did Terminator Salvation, Charlie's Angels, tons of TV.
Yeah, nothing really good.
I watched Supernatural.
He did some music videos. You want to know what music videos he did at the start of
I
this
seen
group?
that. Korn.
Oh, I
did
didn't
something
see
with Korn, I
I've seen
think.
Smash Mouth All Star, Sugar Ray Every Morning, and Sublime Santeria. So those are some 90s things.
I met Sugar Ray one time.
Did you?
Got a microphone.
He gave me a microphone.
Came to the fucking house like, dude, I met Sugar Ray, and he gave me a microphone.
Well, he
at the
needed
gun.
directions. I helped him to Finley to 75. So in return, he said, "Can I repay you? How can I repay you?" I said, "Well, we need a microphone."
And then Jason told this whole story trying to sell it, and then someone was like, "Did he tell you his name isn't Sugar Ray? That's the band."
Oh my god.
Anyway, got a tagline: "Dream girls can be a nightmare." This was a Netflix original.
They should keep doing shit like this.
Yeah, they're knocking them out of the park. Like I don't know about other genres, but the last few horror movies I've seen, great.
I could use a little bit more Chris Wilde. I don't know where I know him from, but he plays the shitty dad. The guy that's like a real asshole, has the car.
Yeah.
What is he on? He's on something. IMDb did not reveal anything, but he kind of looks like a generic.
I feel like it's commercials.
I don't know. It seems like he was in a sketch group or something, but he looks like a generic Matthew Lillard. So
He reminds me of Dangle off Reno 911.
yeah, I could see that.
And, what was the other one they did? Viva Variety.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I hope they release this on physical form. I would love to have this movie.
Like a tablet?
Media.
Like a physical stone tablet.
Dick.
How about those tarantulas in their basement? How about that?
Yeah, those were tarantulas.
That seemed like an excessive amount of excessively large
exotic. Don't try to kill them.
Just-
collect them. Sell them. They're worth
She
a
was
lot
just
of
down
money.
there working.
Yeah.
Setting mouse traps for
the crawl space.
Yeah.
I was really happy to see Ken Marino.
Yes.
He's great in everything.
I know we haven't talked about if we're picking what movies we're picking for next time.
Right.
But seeing Ken Marino in this one made me be like, oh yeah, I know what I'm picking.
Yeah. He's great. Have you ever seen Bad Milo?
That's the one I'm picking.
Oh shit, we're in for it now.
I love that movie.
Have you seen Bad Milo?
Ken Marino?
I've seen. I don't
He has
know.
a demon in his ass that
It crawls out and kills
Milo.
people.
Wasn't there a zombie movie called Milo?
Yeah, Fido.
Fido.
Yeah.
It's close. Screw it.
But,
There was a movie called Milo and Me.
Yeah, there
What,
is.
the
And
dog?
there's some horror stories behind that. Let me tell you, they injured a lot of animals.
The dog movie, right?
Yeah, it's a dog and a cat. They actually
Yeah.
did. They injured tons of cats.
I was thinking
What's the name of the movie though?
Milo.
Homeward Bound.
Milo and Otis.
Wasn't that Homeward
Milo
Bound?
and Otis. I was thinking of McGee and Me.
Milo and Otis. If you Google
Completely
Milo and
different.
Otis, you'll find out that they had a cat that had a broken leg in the movie. Because you can make a cat act like it's got a broken leg, right? Huh? No, China. They didn't have the same rules. They filmed it over there. They don't have the same shit. As,
Back to the
yeah,
babysitter.
anyways,
Frank's mad.
I'm not mad. Does it seem like we watch a lot of movies about teens and preteens just messing around?
This feels like a teeny bopper movie.
It's horror.
It is.
That's
There's a lot of
horror
great
movie.
stuff in
It's
it.
it's directed towards a very young audience. But it didn't bother me.
I liked everything.
Ann
about
calls
it.
me a child every day, so I have no problem relating to
He's young at heart.
the younger stuff.
They talk about they go down and they have a galactic, intergalactic dream team. Do you happen to have one of those, Jared? Did you when that scene was going on? Did you think of what your intergalactic dream team would be?
I mean, I imagine I do, but I suppose I didn't
I got one here that I came up with.
Frank's got one.
Yeah, I would go with Han Solo and Chewbacca.
Yeah.
So that takes up 2 slots. I would take Charlie McFadden from Critters, also, and as well I would have the Guyver on my team, and Shep Ramsey from Suburban Commando. I don't know if you recall him, but that's Hulk Hogan, brother.
No, I remember the movie barely.
Anyways, this is exactly like, I don't like excessive gore in a straight horror movie. It becomes too much. But in a comedy like this, it works out great. It's just every kill scene is delicious. I just like them all. The cop killing scene especially was fucking terrific.
Yeah, whoever the quarterback dude is, I can't think of what I've seen him in before.
I'm not sure.
He's been in stuff.
He's probably on some current TV show or something.
I thought everyone was great. I thought the whole cast was great.
Yeah,
he
was
cliche,
hysterical.
The cliche horror characters.
Yeah, every scene with him though I thought was hysterical. Like from when once he kills the cop. Because the cop walks in and he just grabs the fire poker and is like,
oh yeah,
just go.
And then he fucking rips the dude's top of his head off with that fucking thing.
Yeah. When he's chasing the kid, finally catches up with him, and the dude's egging his house, and the guy's like, "Oh, you can't." I mean, he's caught him. He plans on killing him.
Right.
But he's like, "Nah, you got to go stand up to that dude. You can't let him egg your house like that."
It's funny because evidently this neighborhood just does not give a shit about anything, because my neighbors would have been outside on their yard staring at the dude when he's yelling for, what's his name, Colton or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah, when he was, my whole neighborhood would have been out. But, yeah, it was a great movie. I gave this one a fucking 10, man. I gave it a fucking 10.
Frank's all about it.
Oh, I love it. What was wrong with it? Name one thing. Oh, well, the explosion, the basement explosion looked like shit.
It was hilarious.
But, yeah. It's good shit.
No, I gave it a 7. I don't know. It was good, but
where's the failings?
Nothing really failed. Again, that's a pretty strong word, but like the ending where he ramps the truck, like how he killed her. I probably could.
Did it kind of make you almost? Did it almost make you cry at the end though?
No.
It did me a little bit. That's but I don't know. Maybe I was invested. I loved it. I loved the movie.
Yeah, I think this was I think it was released on Friday the 13th, and I think I watched it that same day it came out. I knew nothing. It advertised it at the top of the screen, so I pressed play and.
Yeah, I gave it an 8. I think it was, again, like there's no failings in it at all. I don't think it's a movie that could be a 10 though, just on.
Yeah, I don't even know what I would do different. Like
just on what it is. It's fun.
7's good.
It's a lot of fun. All the jokes land. Like
the shotgun headshot was fucking.
When the kid wakes up tied to the chair and his first words are like, why is he not wearing a shirt? Like, I mean, everything is timed right. It's all funny. When the first kill in it, when they jab the knives in the dude's head, and like it all lands, but it's just not a movie I don't think could be a 10 unless.
Well, I went through and gave a couple movies last episode or the one before or whatever that were my 10s. What's a 10 movie for you?
Similar. Texas 2 is a 10. Probably Texas 1's a 10. But most of the ones you named, Dead Alive, the unrated version, of course, is a 10. 10s are just hard to come by. Like you gotta have a
new 10s. I have a lot of 10s, but they're all old.
Yeah, Evil Dead 2. Probably Evil Dead 1. Yeah, both of those are 10s. Exorcist If we're going,
and it's definitely
going to get into serious.
It's
ones.
because they're personal to you. It's nostalgic because the Evil Dead is not a 10. But
what's
to
like
us,
a new 10
it's
for
a
you? Do you have a new 10?
I can't think of anything right now.
Dead Alive is a 10 strictly for nostalgia. I doubt.
Yes, well, yeah. Trick or Treat's a 10 to me for sure.
Yeah.